Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to September 6th. Forgive me if I'm a little discombobulated today. We had in the United States yesterday is a holiday. We had Labor Day yesterday. So I'm like, it's Monday. It's Tuesday. I'm here by myself. You do not see my esteemed colleague, Dr. Kristen, with me. She is currently melting in Orlando, Florida, and she's down there for FinCon, which is a financial convention. It is 107 degrees today in Orlando. So that just sounds awful. And we've had a whole discussion this morning in our Abby Research channel about how we have to plan our travel more strategically around climate change. Because last week we had a very climate change heavy visit in Charleston with like monsoon level rain and flooding and humidity, and it was just hard on our bodies and hard on our minds. So we continue to be thwarted by the American South, though we love parts of it. We're not tough. We're not tough Yankees, as we say. So please, anyone who joins this or joins on the replay crew, please send your thoughts and prayers to Dr. Kristen as she tries to survive in this level of heat. But we are not in this level of heat, and we have some great empathy exercises for you. So let's get cracking. Hey, everybody. Before we get into empathy exercises, I want to make a couple short housekeeping announcements. I told you I might struggle today. First of all, it's September, so our YouTube channel is coming back with live YouTube content, new YouTube content. Colonizers World Tour kicks off this week. I think, Colonizers World Tour kicks off this week, today even, in fact, with our month-long coverage of Haiti. We had some fascinating conversations, so be sure to check out. Each week we focus on a different aspect of Haitian life and culture. And pretty soon coming back is our coverage of The Handmaid's Tale, just a short few weeks away. So if you are watching this and you are not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. We would love to have you be a part of our YouTube community and our tiny little corner of the internet, as we say, sharing with y'all the link to our YouTube channel. We also would love to start a Patreon and are planning to start one if we get Patreons. So we have planned some really great exclusive content for our Patreons, especially for The Handmaid's Tale. So if you would like to join us, please become a Mayday member and join us on the Patreon, sharing the link there. Jay, I know. How is it September? Totally. I finally feel like I'm on track, though. I had COVID in July, and it like totally threw my sense of time. And I actually do feel like it's September. The weather is changing. The light is changing. But I'm sure since you have two kiddos, you're like never prepared for changing seasons because you're like, oh, they have to go back to school. What's happening? So there's the link to the Patreon if you haven't signed up for it already. And if you want to find out more about what we're doing and how we're doing it, not on YouTube or not online, or in a different online format, we also have our weekly digest. We would love for you to sign up and become a part of that. That's how you can find out when we're pausing, when we're launching things, all that jazz. And a final announcement before I lose all of our viewers. Like, I didn't come here for this, Erin. I know. But we have really exciting news. You might have seen the social post yesterday, but we're relaunching the podcast, the Culture Cast, also in September. We're super, super excited about the reformat of it. It's going to be, each season is going to be a short 10-episode focus on a particular topic that we have found challenging to be empathetic or fully empathetic about, that is very relevant to what's happening right now in the world. And we want to help people have empathetic conversations around these. So season 2, which premieres 2 weeks from yesterday, September 19th, is going to be focusing specifically on gun violence in America and how we can build empathetic conversations around it. And so these 10 episodes will have a range of formats to them and styles to them. You know us, we love books. There's going to be a couple book reviews in there. Dr. Kristen and I are watching a documentary that we're going to review and talk about. We're going to have specific conversations around understanding and unpacking gun violence and gun culture in America, but we're also going to talk about, you know, how you can have empathy around active shooter drills at work, how you can talk to your kids about gun violence. So very, very different from what our podcast used to look like. We won't be transferring YouTube content to the podcast. We're creating fresh content for the podcast. So we can keep our YouTube people on YouTube. And if you want to join us on the podcast, we'd love to have you. There are going to be some fantastic conversations. We're going to start recording them this week. We're really excited about it. So, announcements out of the way, to the business of the day and to the empathy exercises. The first one we have is kind of a doozy. We've got this article, which is a bigger discussion of what's happening around the specifics of what happened. And then I have an update already on that, or a follow-up, shall we say. So in case you missed it, there was a very recent incident in which a Brigham Young University fan shouted racist slurs at visiting Duke volleyball players who are Black. So this has been covered a lot and talked about a lot. There's been a lot of discussions around the culture at BYU, how the coaches behaved. They did not intervene. They did not say anything. Nothing was done about this specifically. So you can click this link. So the fan, they banned the fan now. So that's the statement that they made. But there was a lot of conversations around how college athletics should be handling this and what that looks like. So this article from Axios is a little bit bigger, examining the culture of BYU and how it has talked about kind of the DEI bucket of the world. And so the one player that spoke out, Rachel Richardson, said the heckling lasted the entire match, but neither BYU nor the referees took action. But BYU later banned that fan. And so this article kind of examines the way that BYU has really dropped the ball on this. And said specifically, this is the line that caught my attention for an empathy exercise: the DEI programs in the world are not the way BYU should do it. BYU should find a gospel-centered approach and to be a light to the world, but not replicating the world. I mean, I don't have my neighborhood family Christian with us today, Dr. Kristen, as she is a practitioner of this faith. But I have studied the gospel quite extensively, even as a agnostic person, and a gospel-centered approach, I'm pretty sure would be to love the person in front of you and accept them for who they are, and to recognize that culture and society and systems are built in a way that oppress marginalized people, and to do what you can to dismantle those systems. So this has brought a lot of attention on BYU and how it handles this, especially in the massive, massive economic industry that is college athletics, and how they make so much money off of college athletics. And then incidents like this happen when you have teams that are visiting. So the empathy exercise into this is to have a think about what DEI training looks like for you, what empathy looks like for you. Um, if you're not sure what empathy looks like, we have a quiz that I'll share with you. That would be beneficial for your organization to have this conversation. But I'll get to that in a minute. The next empathy exercise is, as I said, an update to this incident where South Carolina and women's basketball coach Dawn Staley have canceled a home-at-home series with BYU because of the racial incident at the volleyball game and because of BYU's response to it. So this is one of those things in where we say, if you can't make the moral argument or the ethical argument for why organizations or institutions should embrace change, you can always make the economic argument. And so especially college basketball, which is much more NCAA college basketball is way more profitable than college volleyball. This is a great way to kind of hit BYU where it hurts and say you guys really need to assess and reevaluate what your approach is to real inclusivity as any sort of organization. So the coach Staley said, as a head coach, it is my job to do what is best for my players and staff. The incident at BYU has led me to reevaluate our home and home, and I don't feel it is the time for us to engage in this series. And so, I said at the beginning that this was kind of making an economic argument, but honestly, from her perspective, they're making an empathetic case that it is their job to protect their players from harm. And that is 100% their job as coaches. And they're given how BYU has reacted to this situation, I understand why they made this decision and why they're putting the mental health and physical health and safety of their players above these economic needs. So it's a double-edged empathy exercise on this one. The lessons that we can gently nudge BYU towards, and the lesson we can take from the staff and faculty at South Carolina who said, you know what, this is a situation that could potentially harm our student athletes, and we're not going to put them in that situation. So thumbs down to BYU, not great on the empathy scale. Thumbs up South Carolina for protecting your student athletes. We love to see it. What we don't love to see is the ongoing discriminatory policy of the Chinese government against the Uyghurs and other Muslim ethnic groups in the region. This is something that has been ongoing for years now and is very, very troubling information. And we have news from the world that the UN's report from their Human Rights Office released last week cited serious rights violations and patterns of torture in recent years and seeks urgent attention from the UN and the world community to the rights violation in Beijing's campaign to quote unquote root out terrorism. Has been the justification for what we know now officially have recognition as serious rights violations, human rights violations. This is a massive issue of diplomatic, I don't know, murky waters. They're in muddy waters here. And it's similar to the conversation we've had a lot on this channel about what's going on with Taiwan and the US relationship with Taiwan and the People's Republic of China. And China just wields so much global economic power and therefore political power that diplomacy can be really, really tricky. And so I know there are a lot of times those of us not in diplomatic positions would like to see movement much quicker when humans are being tortured and murdered and abused and having their right to human life violated. But there's a lot of diplomatic parsing that has to go through with this. So this has been a tug of war between Western Democrats, quote unquote, and China. So it's something to keep an eye on. I don't know what kind of level of influence this report is going to have, but hopefully it's movement towards being able to put more international pressure on China to stop violating the human rights of Uyghurs and other Muslim ethnic minorities in the Xinjiang area of China. So it's something we want to put a pin on and keep an eye on. Hopefully a move towards something better, but this has been a long, protracted conflict with a lot of death and destruction since 2018. So good news ish. But what is not does not need the ish moniker at the end of it, suffix, and it is straight up good news, is the election of Mary Peltola, apologies, Mary, or Peltola, who was elected last week to the United States Congress in a special election that took place. And she is set to make history as the first Alaska Native in Congress, and I believe the first woman elected, which is just, hey, Alaska, how we doing? But progress is progress. So really exciting to see this. It was an unlikely bid for the House, and is fascinatingly, unique in Alaska because political relationships span decades. And so it's a kind of libertarian bent to politics in which it can be really hard to enter into that political sphere. So it's exciting news. She's the daughter of a Yupik mother and a Nebraskan father who had moved to teach school and then became a bush pilot. So she speaks openly about being an Alaska Native and how that was important to her decision to run for Congress and what she believes she can do to represent Alaska. So we're excited to see it. We're excited to see representation of Native peoples everywhere. And congratulations to Mary Peltola, and good luck in Congress. Should be interesting to see what she does for the state of Alaska. Speaking of Native representation, my goodness, so many pop-ups. Speaking of Native representation, not great news. We learned last week that Rutherford Falls, which was groundbreaking in its Native representation, both in front of the camera and behind the camera, and in the writer's room, and in the people who worked on the show, etc., was canceled by Peacock after 2 seasons. But the good news, the asterisk on this, is that Sierra Teller Ornelas, who is the show creator pictured here, is already shopping it to other places. But the reason I picked this particular article was because it included Sierra's full statement on it. And I wanted to make sure and highlight what she had to say about the show, because we love to see representation. That's a huge part of the empathy exercises that we do, is highlighting these areas, especially of artistic creation, in which we can access different perspectives and stories than our own. And so Sierra said, it's been a true joy to make these 2 seasons. Borrowing a line from Terry Thomas, played by she said ridiculously talented. He's like stupidly talented. If you don't know Michael Grey Eyes, he's phenomenal. From our show, from before our show, Native representation was for the most part a hate crime. And that might sound hyperbolic, but it's not. And it might sound exaggeratory, especially to white folks, but it's not. If we really look at and study the history of Native representation, it is a huge part of systemic oppression and marginalization against Native peoples. So it's phenomenal what they were able to accomplish in terms of the level of representation. And it's just a flippin' brilliant show. I was absolutely gutted to see this news. If you haven't already seen Rutherford Falls, like, go out and watch it right now and then tweet about how amazing it was, or post on Instagram or TikTok, wherever, and tell people, so that we can put a lot of pressure on streaming services to pick it up, because they are not done telling that story. And it's really, really, it was just so refreshing to just see what happens when you give people the opportunity to tell their own stories. And, the best stories are universal and specific at the same time. And we've talked about Rutherford Falls before. It is universal in that humanity is universal, but very specific to Indian country and to Native American experiences specifically. So we hope this is not the end for Rutherford Falls. So from our tiny corner of the internet, let's go, people. Let's mobilize and help save Rutherford Falls, so that we can keep on this trend of Native representation. Speaking of Native representation, y'all, it's me, the Indian country correspondent for Abbey Research. So you knew that my empathy exercises were going to be chock-a-block with them. But I wanted to end with this one, especially after the sad news of Rutherford Falls, that this came across my Twitter feed the other day, and I thought it was such a great example of how we can build inclusive communities, which is what we're all about here at Abbey Research. This past week, Penn State University sponsored a traditional Native American powwow on Saturday and Sunday. People from a number of tribes and nations gathered at State College Middle School to celebrate Native American culture and spirituality. Powwows happen all around the country to this day. It's kind of a word that we use, especially in white American culture, to describe like meetings. And I don't think a lot of white Americans know that powwows still happen, because we still think of Native Americans as something that existed in the past. But they're a huge, huge part of Native American, Aboriginal, Canadian, Native Hawaiian, Alaska Native, pick a category. They're a huge part of Indigenous people's lives, especially in North America. And so it's a very old tradition that's been ongoing for a long time. But for many people in State College, which is a small town in the middle of Pennsylvania, the state of Pennsylvania, this was their first experience of a powwow. And so I think it was really cool to kind of sponsor it in a way that it could be funded and it could be a full expression of what they wanted, but also to encourage other people to come to the powwow. And so one of the organizers said, especially in a place like central Pennsylvania, where there aren't a lot of visible Native people engaging in the community, there aren't a lot of opportunities to get to know Native people. So how are people supposed to know who we are, what our traditions are, even that we're still here today? Super excited to see this happen and this level of engagement with an idea, and excited. Oh, Lord. Scrolling down through local news in Pennsylvania is way more mugshots than any of us wanted to see on a Tuesday afternoon. But a great little story out of a tiny, tiny spot in central Pennsylvania. and showing kind of the impact of what we can do when we realize the potential of inclusivity and how we can build inclusivity through just giving people time and space to tell their stories and to share their culture. And here in Pittsburgh, at the University of Pittsburgh, we have like cultural days um, in the Cathedral of Learning, which is one of our big buildings on campus, and has it has fascinating international rooms in it. And we had like international cultural days where every cultural organization, Polish, Balinese, Indian, Lithuanian, you name it. If there was a cultural organization in the Pittsburgh region, they were invited and given a table, and you could just walk around and try different food, buy different cultural items, see dance, hear music. And it was this celebration of inclusivity and recognizing cultural diversity. So, I might be seeing pretty soon if the University of Pittsburgh can host a powwow and support the Indigenous folks of our region and bridge that gap of understanding about the cultural and spiritual significance of a powwow. So super excited to see that, and to end again empathy exercises with a relatively positive note. The last link I'm going to pop in here to the chats while we're wrapping up, except I clicked the wrong link because hilarious. Dr. Kristen is much better at this than I am, but we're making it work. Hello, internet. All right. It's not working. Why would it? There we go. Lord have mercy. We're all on the struggle bus. Even the internet took yesterday off. The last link I want to share is for our empathy quiz. If you've stuck with me this whole way, aside from Jay, I love you. And you're still thinking about BYU as I am, and you're curious where your organization or culture or family falls on our empathy scale, I've dropped the link in here for our empathy quiz, which you can take if you are so interested. Again, the links that I've dropped here into the chat. Sign up, please. Join us on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for our new content coming today, literally today. But also The Handmaid's Tale Season 5, which is going to be a journey. And we would love for you to take that journey with us. We also have a Patreon where if you sign up, you can get exclusive Handmaid's Tale content like live reactions and drunk chats and who knows what else we can come up with. But I don't think we would still be watching The Handmaid's Tale if we didn't have a YouTube channel and if we didn't love talking about it with y'all so much. So please join us on this journey. And then sign up for our newsletter. I'm just going to keep shilling stuff at you guys and take our empathy quiz. Do all those things. Those are your assignments. Friends out there. Hi, Siobhan. Thanks for joining us. Mwah. To you, Jay. I think that's a wrap on our empathy exercises for today. Without my beloved business partner, Dr. Kristen, who is melting in Florida. I hope she's indoors. She better be indoors with air conditioning like all day today if it's 107 degrees. Lord have mercy. But thanks for joining me. Replay crew, what's up? Thanks for watching on the replay. We will be back next Tuesday with more empathy exercises for you on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. I think those are the 4. We also do this every Friday morning when we are able on Clubhouse. So if you're on Clubhouse or you want thinking of joining Clubhouse, join us there. You can follow me or you can follow Dr. Kristen. You can become a member of our empathy education room, and then you'll be there for whenever we go on Clubhouse. So join us there. Oh, Jay, she 100% has AC. She's in the hotel, I would imagine. And John's working and she's working from the hotel today. because I think it's a light day. But wherever she is, she will be in AC 100% because that's just obscene. But join us on Clubhouse if you're so inclined. If not, join us here next Tuesday for more discussions of what empathy looks like and what we can do if we really focus on building inclusive communities. It's remarkable and the potential is endless. So have a great day, everybody. Be safe, stay hydrated. Be in air conditioning if you can. Climate change is no joke. And we'll see you next time. Have a good day.